Welcome to a primer of the Energy Employees Occupational Illness Compensation Program Act Special Exposure Cohort. The Energy Employees Occupational Illness Compensation Program Act of 2000 provides compensation and medical benefits to eligible workers, or certain survivors if the worker is deceased, for illnesses related to exposure to radiation or other toxic substances while employed at Department of Energy, its contractor, or subcontractor facilities. There are two methods in Part B of the Act to be eligible for compensation. The first is for an individual dose reconstruction. The second method to establish that a cancer incurred by a covered worker is compensable under the Act is to establish that the worker is a member of the Special Exposure Cohort and suffered a specified cancer after beginning employment at a DOE facility or a facility with 250 days of eligible employment. Section 3626 of the Act, which is 42 U.S.C. 738 for Q, authorizes the addition to the cohort of other classes of employees. This authority has been delegated to the Secretary of HHS by Executive Order 13,179. To qualify for compensation as a member of an SEC class, covered employee must have at least one of the 22 specified cancers and worked for a specified period of time at one of the SEC work sites. Worked at gaseous diffusion plants in Paducah, Kentucky, Portsmouth, Ohio, or Oak Ridge, Tennessee for a total of at least 250 days before February 1, 1992, and were monitored for radiation exposure with dosimetry badges, or had jobs with similar exposures to those monitored, or worked before January 1, 1974, on Amchitka Island, Alaska, and were exposed to radiation related to the long-shot, Milrow or Cannikin underground nuclear tests. The Act also authorizes the Secretary of Health and Human Services to add other classes of employees to the SEC. Qualifying cancers are shown: chiefly, bone cancer, renal cancers, leukemia, other than chronic lymphocytic leukemia, provided the onset of the disease was at least 2 years after first exposure, lung cancer, other than in situ lung cancer, that is discovered during or after a post-mortem exam. In addition, after 5 years from first exposure, multiple myeloma, lymphomas, other than Hodgkin's disease, primary cancers of bile ducts, brain, breast, male and female, colon, esophagus, gallbladder, liver, ovary, pancreas, pharynx, salivary gland, small intestine, stomach, thyroid, urinary bladder. Please note that prostate cancer is not included. Special Exposure Cohort class member payments include $150,000 with paid medical insurance for covered cancer treatment. Under Part E, a qualified survivor may receive benefits of at least $125,000. Claimant must also file under Part E. The following slides show the processes used to propose and establish Special Exposure Cohort classes. Under the Act, there are two types of petitions. The first, the 83.13 Form B, is submitted by individuals requesting an SEC class. The petition must be for class of workers, that is energy employees, and not for a single individual. The 83.13 petition is not intended to supplement a denied individual claim. The second type is the 83.1 for Form B, which requests a class of energy employees identified by the National Institute of Safety and Health for which dose reconstructions are not feasible. This type of petition is completed by the National Institute of Safety and Health but for a Part B claimant. Special Exposure Cohort Key 83.13 petition requirements include name of energy employee, survivor, representative or labor union submitting petition, and for proposed class, the name of the Department of Energy or Atomic Energy employer site, the group of energy employees, start dates and end dates for proposed class. There can have more than one time period. The petitioner may submit descriptions or data on any unmonitored or inadequately monitored incident. Lastly, the petitioner must select a petition basis. 83.13 Petition Basis. Basis F.1 states we have attached either documents or statements provided by affidavit that indicate that radiation exposures and radiation doses potentially incurred by members of the proposed class that relate to this petition were not monitored, either through personal monitoring or through area monitoring. Basis F. To states I, we have attached either documents or statements provided by affidavit that indicate that radiation monitoring records for members of the proposed class have been lost, falsified, or destroyed, or that there is no information regarding monitoring, source term, or process from the site where the energy employees worked. Basis F. 3 states I, we have attached a report from a health physicist or other individual with expertise in radiation dose reconstruction documenting the limitations of existing Department of Energy or Atomic Weapons employer records on radiation exposures at the facility. As relevant to the petition, the report specifies the basis for believing these documented limitations might prevent the completion of dose reconstructions for members of the class under 42 CFR Part 82 and related NEOSH technical implementation guidelines. Basis F. 3 states I, we have attached a report from a health physicist or other individual with expertise in radiation dose reconstruction documenting the limitations of existing Department of Energy or Atomic Weapons employer records on radiation exposures at the facility. As relevant to the petition, the report specifies the basis for believing these documented limitations might prevent the completion of dose reconstructions for members of the class under 42 CFR Part 82 and related NEOSH technical implementation guidelines. Special Exposure Cohort 83.1 for petition information. NEOSH already identified DOE, site, location, group of energy, employees, time period and reasons why dose reconstructions cannot be completed. Claimant merely signs form and returns. The National Institute of Safety and Health receives the petition and starts qualification of the petitioners in petition. Health physicist qualifies petition by examining: is petition for one person or group of workers? Is site a covered site? Are time period, included in covered site definition? Is petition partly based on incident? Was documentation supplied to support? Is petition basis justified? Example, if F.1, does NEOSH has monitoring data? Health physicist documents any deficiencies. NEOSH mails deficiencies to petitioner. Schedule consult call to discuss. Petitioner has 30 days to respond to listed deficiencies. Petitioner updates petition. Health physicist reviews updated information. Health physicist drafts memo either recommending formal petition evaluation or denying petition evaluation. NEOSH mails formal qualification memo to petitioner. If qualified for evaluation, NEOSH starts mandated 180-day clock on date of receipt of petition. The clock is stopped while waiting for petitioner to respond to deficiencies and questions. If qualified, the National Institute of Safety and Health evaluates the petition to determine if the proposed class or any alternate classes should be recommended as a special exposure cohort class. Health physicists determine potential site sources of medical, external and internal dose. Health physicists analyze site monitoring for external and internal dose and monitoring data available for the proposed SEC class. Health physicists evaluate reported incidents involving radiation for unmonitored radiation dose. Health physicists identify any lack of sufficient monitoring and/or missing or lack of monitoring data and set of workers, work locations and in time periods for which doses cannot be bounded. Modes of radiation exposure include external dose and internal dose from inhalation and ingestion. Health physicists determine if monitoring methods, including calibrations, and monitoring data are sufficient to bound radiation doses for members of the proposed class. Data from contamination surveys and air monitoring may be used with some caveats. Please note occupational doses only need to be bounded with sufficient accuracy by reasonable but plausible methods or models if data not available. Can external doses from beta, gamma and neutron sources be bound? Can medical doses be bound? Can internal doses from all occupational sources be bound? Bounding methods can include the use of co-exposure models, and surrogate data from other sites, which did similar work and exposures. What set of workers, work locations and in time periods are in question? Health physicists, NEOICPA determines if there is a reasonable likelihood that unmonitored radiation dose, S, may have endangered the health of members of the class. If so, health physicists propose a special exposure cohort class for the set of energy employees, locations at and time periods for which one of more doses cannot be bounded. NEOICPA forwards the evaluation report to the Advisory Board on Radiation and Worker Health for further action. The board may approve the proposal class, deny the proposed class, modify the proposed class, or send the evaluation report to their contractor for review. Class approval steps are shown in the steps in the flow chart. The class may be approved or denied. Special Exposure Cohort Example SEC Class Baker Brothers, which was evaluated for all workers for June 1, 1943 through December 31, 1944. Between June 1943 and July 1944, DuPont and the University of Chicago subcontracted the Baker Brothers Company to machine roll metal rods into uranium slugs that were used for fuel in the world's first production reactors located in Oak Ridge, Tennessee and Hanford, Washington. In this evaluation, NEOICPA has determined that it lacks sufficient data relating to worker internal doses from EC-related work performed at Baker Brothers during the operational period, June 1, 1943 through December 31, 1944. Therefore, a complete internal data sufficiency and pedigree evaluation is not possible for the period from June 1, 1943 through December 31, 1944. The following class was enacted: all atomic weapons employees who worked at the Baker Brothers site in Toledo, Ohio, during the period from June 1, 1943 through December 31, 1944, for a number of workdays aggregating at least 250 workdays, occurring either solely under this employment, or in combination with workdays within the parameters established for one or more other classes of employees, included in the Special Exposure Cohort. As of July 27, 2020, for Special Exposure Cohort energy employee classes have been enacted at 83 former, current DOE, or WE sites with a total of 131 classes. More than one class have been created at some sites. For example, 5 classes have been enacted for the Hanford site, and 6 classes at the Oak Ridge Y12 site.